Welcome back to Heartland Arms, your source for education and firearms training. So, today, now I just got back. I was running point for Santa. So I was part of the ELF squad. And I noticed something. People go out there and they say, hey, you know, I got these guns and, I'm carrying, 3 magazines. That's great. That's great. Glad for you. But it's not how much ammo you carry. It's where those shots go when you need to use them. And that's going to be your shot placement. Okay? So now I'm telling you, we're flying around with Santa. Of course, we're running cover. There's a lot of crazy people in this world. So when I'm running point for Santa, I can't just have stray bullets going through. We're delivering presents for kids. We have to make our shots count. Okay? So if I got that bad guy, okay? So I'm coming through and we're getting ready to do it and I see Krampus coming around the corner. I need to make sure my placements are good. Okay? That's plain and simple. I need to make sure I take out the threat so the kids can get their presents, okay? That's my goal. So it's all about shot placement. So let's go to the overhead here. This is kind of a target here, just a small one that I have. And with this small one, you can see you got your center target, which is 10, and then all the way out. Now, I want to say this says airstrike, so this is from a airsoft firearm that we have. I do a lot of training with airsoft. I really do. So it's good training. Anytime you can start getting any type of firearm to a target and start doing it repetitively is what I recommend. I don't care if it's a BB gun. I don't care if it's an airsoft. I don't care if you're going to the range. Everything will help getting you on target. Okay. You got to understand that a lot of this stuff, and I'm telling you, it happened. We were flying around. Santa got a little turbulence and we dropped, and so you got to understand that you're going to be moving around and things like that. And we made our descent into I think it was Chicago, and man, I tell you what, Krampus was right down the road, and someone had to take the shot. I was on the other side. I saw him on the other side. I saw my partner take that shot. Direct hit. Shot placement, great. But I also noticed that when he took that shot, he had to watch that drop. I saw him breathe, held that breath, and took that shot. Trigger pull when you're going through that is going to affect your shot placement, okay? Moving around or jostling, or if you're running and trying to shoot on the go, that's going to be a problem. Because you don't want to snap that trigger. You don't want to, you don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to be nice and steady. Slow trigger control. Slow trigger pull. That's what you're going to do. A lot of people don't understand that. That's why I love these, because I can sit here all day. It's an airsoft. It's a $20 gun that I could just sit here and just slowly pull that trigger. Just practice that slow, concise trigger pull. Because I don't need to do that when I'm up in the sleigh. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. Shot placement is more important than your caliber size. Okay? If you miss by a mile, I mean, who cares what caliber it was? If you're not hitting the target, you're not stopping them. I've seen people just as deadly with a 22 as a 30-06. So it's all about where you put that round and where you're shooting. These targets right here, they do teach you center mass. You could get other targets that are the people, and they also teach you headshots. And unless you're really, you're really trained, I would also recommend never going for a headshot. Shot play, and I've had this discussion with my wife, and I think she does it just to irritate me. She probably does. Now, Mikey over here is laughing because he knows exactly what I'm saying. We've watched the movie. I'm like, yeah, you always shoot center mass. Why don't you just shoot his arm? Why don't you just shoot him in the leg? A, that don't always stop the threat. B, it's also a smaller target to hit. And she says it and then she laughs, so I think she's just messing with me at this point. But you have to, you're always going to aim for center mass. This is where you're at, okay? Keep that in mind when you're going through that. Now you want to also draw, get in target, and go. If you notice see how smooth that is? If you jerk, you go, see the difference on just on camera for that? Imagine, and that's, the further shooting you're going, the harder it is to do that. So the more you have to be precise at what you're aiming at. We're going to talk about laser sights and stuff like that. They're a great training tool as well. I'm very good. Just if you do this and you do that, that's great. But you also, as much as dry firing is a great practice, great to do, you also want to take that firearm that you're going to be using, practice its dry fire, and then practice live rounds through it. Now, they also make these little training dummy rounds, and I like to use those as well. So what I'll do is on the range, I'll load a magazine with a dummy round somewhere in there. So if I have a 10-round magazine, there's a dummy round somewhere in there. And generally, I'll give it to my friend and say, hey, put this dummy round somewhere in that system. And I do that for two reasons, okay? When I go to pull that, I could go, oh, that was a dummy round. Oh, I kind of jerked when I do that. That's why I'm shooting off this way. Or I'm anticipating the recoil, so I'm pushing it down like this. Oh, that dummy round in there when you're shooting will help kind of identify those issues. So I like to have those little dummy rounds. They also help with clearing. So you're like, oh, that was a dud. Let me clear that round. And then you could go on shooting. So those little dummy rounds are really, really, really nice when you're doing that. They make them for all firearms. They're really, really nice to use. So they help keep you on target. So when you pull the trigger and nothing goes on, I want you to think to yourself, okay, when I pulled that trigger, did I push? Did I pull? Did I just let it go up? How did the firearm move? What I want to do is when I pull that firearm, it's going to naturally kick back. And we're going to cover some shooting positions later. We're going to get into that too. But the gun's going to recoil a little bit. And you want to absorb that without jerking the firearm around yourself. Let the firearm do the work, okay? That is one of the best things that I could do. Now, you also want to go through what your target is, what's beyond your target, and you'll cover, what am I shooting at and what is in front of the target that I might accidentally hit or that can be injured, and what's beyond that target that if I miss or if my shot goes through what I'm shooting at, can someone be injured or hurt on the other side? That's always a thought process that should be through your head every time you pull your firearm and go to shoot. I am not a big fan of the targets that have the hostage situation. I don't, because I think they're great for law enforcement. I think they're really good for military. I don't really think those are good for civilian. And the reason I say that is, and don't get me wrong, if you want to practice with them, by all means, I would suggest doing it, but I don't like them because if someone is in front of the target and they're holding them hostage, I really, unless you absolutely have to take the shot, you shouldn't be shooting in that situation, especially if you're not trained for it. You haven't done years of practice. If you just got your firearm permit, or you're new at, I've been carrying for a year. If that's the case, I mean, if you have to take the shot, you have to take the shot. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling anybody not to take the shot, but you should really think about it. It should, do I have to shoot because there's a chance that I'm going to hit this person? And I don't care how many times you've been to the range and practice on that target. It's different when it's real people, okay? First time I ran into Crumpus, I ran into the same problem. I'm like, oh, it's a demon. And I tell you, Santa put his hand. He goes, take the shot, and I did, and got him out of there. That's the problem with demons; they keep coming back. But you got to understand that when you're taking that shot, you have to be very, very clear at what you're going for. Now, also, you're going to have your stance, your grip, whatever, however you're setting up. You want to be comfortable but steady. That's going to be across the board, okay? You're going to want to make sure that, is there anything moving around in your target? Is there anything like that? There's a lot of factors that you go in that can also be a distraction when you're trying to put that shot on target. And distractions could be screaming. It could be, if it's a robbery situation, it could be screaming. It could be, a cook coming in the back, or they're throwing something out. There's all kinds of chaos that could happen in a shooting situation, which is why police, SWAT, military train so much on that. And as much as they train, they don't always get it right either. They make mistakes as well. So think of it this way. Are you training as much or more than the police? Then, yeah, you're going to be pretty good on target, right? But if you're not, and you go to the range every so often, and you're just, you're just doing the general maintenance, there's a lot of shots that you're not going to take that you'll see in movies that, oh, he took that shot. Yeah, that might not be a good shot for you. Might not be a good shot for me. It really just depends on how much practice, how comfortable you are, and the situation. But it's not about the rounds. It's how many you have. It's not about, it's about making them count. And I had a buddy that kind of teases me a little bit because I'll carry a Derringer every once in a while. And I'll tell you guys the same thing I tell him. You know what? If it gets to the point where I need to pull that Derringer, they call it a belly gun for a reason sometimes. You have to be so up close and personal that one hand's is going to be holding your knife away from me or stopping the bat swinging, and the other one's going to be point blank pulling the trigger. That's the scenario that it's going to be for a Derringer. Shot placement matters the most there. And I will tell you, the closer that they are to you, the more important that shot placement is, because you miss and they're too close, their adrenaline kick in, and you can find yourself hurt. So I would just practice always with what you're carrying, what you're doing. It's not about the speed of drawing the holster. It's not about getting out as quick as possible. That's not what it's about. It's all about being steady. And when I say slow and steady, you have to be slow and steady as fast as possible. Okay? Sounds like an oxymoron, but you have to be, I can't go, oh, let me get this, oh, there. No, anytime you pull the firearm, you should be pulling it to pull the trigger. That should be what you're doing. You don't pull a gun and say, stop, freeze. Don't do that. Because if you're not already pulling the trigger, I don't think you should have pulled the firearm in the first place. That's my personal preference. So when you're here, you go, it should be all one motion. Now, the other person, when he sees this coming out, he has from here to decide, oh, I should stop this action. So if he stops, drops the weapons or whatever, that's going to be something he's going to do to stop your completed action, okay? Think of it a lot like baseball, okay? You're out there. When that pitch comes in, that ball comes in, that batter has to decide to swing or not, okay? That ball is already in motion, okay? The ball is already in motion, okay? Whether I swing is going to be whether they're going to stop it or not, okay? So keep that in mind. It's when things are already in motion, you know, before you pull that trigger and you're swinging, you have to decide, okay, is this something I'm going to be able to hit or not? And on the other side of that token is if that ball stops, if he throws that ball and it stops short, I'm not going to swing at it. So if I see that ball coming at me and I'm going to swing and that ball stops or I see it go wide, I'm not going to swing. I'm not going to pull that trigger. But the act is already there. Okay? Just keep that in mind. It's one of those things. We're going to cover a lot of stances and everything going forward too. And then eventually we're going to get onto the range and we're still in the studio. This is actually the last series that we're going to record with the background. We're changing green screen. We got new equipment. We've got new PTZ cameras, and these are the autofocus. So pretty soon I'll be able to get up and move, and these cameras will be able to follow me. And that's what we've been waiting for, to start getting a little bit more behind the desk stuff done. So cameras just came in. We're recording the final series of kind of behind the desk before we start moving around a little bit more. So make sure you like, follow, subscribe. We're on all podcast players, all social media, YouTube, Rumble, everywhere. A lot of algorithms don't like us, so make sure you like, subscribe. And if you notice that you're not subscribing when you did, go back there and resubscribe. We appreciate it. It helps us get our message out there. So until next time, make sure you are shooting straight.